Hi, everybody. Thank you. Thank you for that introduction. So, as everybody knows, I'm Marcus. I work with Monarch. I see many orange bags in the audience right now, meaning you stopped by our booth, so thank you. So just a little bit more of what I do at Monarch. So 2020, we introduced humanoid robots to our nursing home. You can see up on our screen, it's a little washed out, but we introduced 8 Pepper robots and 8 Nail robots. Our Pepper robot is the 3-foot or 4-foot tall robot that's designed to sing, dance, tell jokes, and do general just forms of engagement. They are throughout the state of Minnesota. And then we have our little robot, which is a Now robot. That's our little elder-friendly exercise robot. Everything that you can see up there, I know I don't have videos at this time, but everything you can see up there is programmed by a woman named Dr. Arshia Khan. She's at the University of Minnesota Duluth, and she oversees the software development behind these robots. So over the last 2 years, I've been traveling across the state, hanging out with residents, running activities, and just seeing how people interact in this novel experience. As you could probably assume, we're very early adopters in this process, so there's been plenty of hiccups on the road. But it's all part of the fun and the joy that we get to do. Outside of this program, I also advocate within our diversity, equity, inclusion program and our clinical nursing program, which is designed to help introduce virtual reality as a learning modality for our employees. So we're starting to teach team members how to do competencies and different forms of care in VR with the intentions to save on PPE and also just perform like a new, fun, and engaging way to interact with our team members. So that's a little bit about who I am behind the scenes with Monarch. And then also we have Dr. Arshia Khan there. Want to make sure that she's highlighted. She was here last year giving an awesome presentation and actually did a demo in live. So looking at this presentation and the conversation, I didn't know the exact audience who I was speaking to, so I wanted to cast a wide net and be able to just kind of address the audience, field questions as they come in, and just have a casual conversation. So if you have a burning question, shoot your hand up. I'll definitely answer it. I'll try not to get sidetracked too far in the conversation, but I promise nothing. So, like I said, my background's clinical social work and training. So my focus is social wellness. So this entire conversation is about quality of life and just quality of care. So we're looking more out in the community. Is there anybody that works in a nursing home or a healthcare setting here? Okay. Awesome. So there is a few people, so I will be a little biased to skilled nursing, I won't lie. But the whole purpose is just to look at what can we do in and out of the community to improve our day-to-day living in just little ways, finding a new application, tracking down a new program, learning something that you didn't know. It's all about just navigating the internet. As we know, it's a quite large beast to navigate sometimes. So we'll also be touching on digital consciousness and just very, very surface level there. We could probably do a 3-hour presentation on the side, or we call in another expert to have that conversation. And then we'll just be looking at types of technology that are in our house, outside of our house, and where we can get it. So, like I said, it's social wellness. At the end of the day, we need to understand digital literacy to just sit down and have that conversation with not only ourselves, but anybody, such as conversations like this. So when we look at our social wellness, we want to be able to monitor screen time at points, whether it's for us, for other people. There's different things in that facet. Any questions? Okay, so looking a little bit more at social wellness, what I focus on is how can we collaborate and work with vulnerable populations within technology. So if we're using a virtual reality program, for example, we can work with the individual to meet them where they're at. I had the privilege of meeting a gentleman last week in one of my communities who is paralyzed from the neck down, and he is one of the biggest advocates of virtual reality, I think, in our company. He has the ability to be transported into the Appalachian Mountains skydiving like that. He can go to Patagonia and have a giant buffalo come up to his face just immediately. And it's just smiles and expressions, and it's just a wonderful experience to be in the same session with him. I, on the other hand, caught a little nervous when I was flying and proceeded to sit back down in my chair. He had no fear traversing the digital world. But, yes?
Do you have any experience or have you experienced where people get motion sickness?
That is a wonderful question. So do you get motion sickness in virtual reality? Absolutely. So part of our conversation when we educate and orientate someone to VR is just sitting back whenever we put a new individual, whether it's somebody out in the community or somebody in a nursing home, we have them sitting down, we have our hands on the table, we acknowledge that we don't even put the strap completely on our head, we just put the glasses up, and if we feel anything, we stop. That's very easy to do. And then we also have individuals who will get a little bit excited. So we want people sitting to begin the VR session. Because if you stand up, vertigo, that motion sickness, it's very easy to happen. Or you can be sucked into the environment a little bit too much. Like what happened one time to me when I was in VR, I went to lean down on a chair. That chair wasn't there, and I went straight to the ground. And my wife laughed at me in the process. But so that's something that we look at. Another thing within like virtual reality platforms in general and looking at that social wellness is an individual's mental health. There are programs out there that are designed to have sundowning rooms. There's a company called Rendeavor that has a really cool geriatric platform. And within that, they look at the individuals just like, if we're gonna start sundowning at 4:30 p.m., what do we do at 3:15 to meet their needs? And some individuals it works really well, some individuals it doesn't work, but that's part of individualized care. And the only other thing that I'd like to touch on specifically with like VR and the digital focus is I've had a really cool conversation with an individual who has a diagnosis of schizophrenia. They're very well managed, have a wonderful life, and they've been with us for a very long time. And in that conversation, she was very afraid of VR. She's like, I don't know what's gonna happen. I don't know what could potentially be triggered. And when we were in the virtual reality experience, she asked, will anything bad hurt me? And I was able to sit there and have a very wonderful conversation with her and acknowledge like, nope, it's not possible other than motion sickness for something to hurt you in virtual reality. She was able to sit in an environment in the African safari and have lions and giraffes and elephants and all these cool animals come up to her knowing that nothing bad could happen. There was like, we could disprove the reality of delusions or hallucinations in that moment because we know what the program is. It's been created for a positive reason. There's nothing in there. And in the event that something did come in, we could stop the session in that moment and have a conversation about what occurred. So those are kind of some of the things that we look at when it comes to digital consciousness. Now, that is 5 scenarios in one platform of one program. The internet's a pretty large place. So if there's a social worker in here, I would love to follow up and have a conversation about just like different ways that we can use technology to just continue to improve quality of care when we engage with people. So that's just, yes.
If you're a person with dementia, does that limit your engagement?
So the question is there a person, if you have the diagnosis of dementia or Alzheimer's, does that limit your engagement? Yes and no. That comes down to the individual's needs and who the individual is. In some instances, we have actually worked with our memory care units, and we have residents that are obsessed with the virtual reality program to the point where we have to limit interaction because if you have a computer screen 3 inches away from your head for 6 hours a day, probably not the best. So like they're 10, 15-minute sessions, but the individuals, some individuals absolutely love the idea because you can go walk around Google Earth. You can go to their neighborhood home. You can drop them over on Abbey Street and then they can do the pose with the Beatles. Like wherever you want to go, you can take them. And it's very great for stimulating conversations and the follow-up after the headset's over. We run our sessions in groups so that we have 3 or 4 people actually in the session at a time. And then we can cast it to a TV so that the people can also watch the program. One of the silver linings is there's limited content out there. So if somebody does have the diagnosis of dementia and they really love the outdoor sessions, we can take them through these different sessions week by week and they can become more accustomed and more comfortable running through the exercise. And if somebody says, I don't want to be a part of it, we take the headset off and go about our traditional activities. It's completely their choice. I'd say about 10% of the population gets really excited at this time with the communities that I serve.
How does a homebound person access a virtual reality program?
Yes, I love that question. So how does somebody from the home access a virtual reality program? Up front, I would encourage you to just go to Amazon, Best Buy, a local store like that, and purchase a device. Before you do that, I would definitely Google like what one you want. We're going to talk a little bit more about that, where to get them, and just don't pay full price for them because sales always are popping up. But they are very accessible to the general public. The most common one on the market right now is a Meta Quest. It is ran by Facebook, so now Meta. And then Pico's a really popular one out there, and they range between $300 and $500. If you have motion sickness, I would strongly discourage it. Talk to your doctor first otherwise. Yeah, so before we actually kind of cast our wide net of just different forms of activities and engagement, I do want to talk about digital consciousness. I know the keynote panels were talking about it a little bit more. I know another individual in the later session is going to be going much further into this, but I do just want to touch on it ever so slightly. Whenever possible, you want to avoid pay to play. And what I mean by that is the app on your phone that says if you spend $1.99, you can go up 5 levels. Like, it's your discretion if you want to spend money on that, but it's truthfully not necessary. Most games and most content out there can be accessed free. With the caveat of that, subscriptions will be required at points, and you can't get around that. So whenever you're navigating the internet, also never share your personal information. It happens, but we want to avoid that. And then I know we were also acknowledging AI a little bit in the keynote. Who in here has heard of ChatGPT? Okay, a handful of people. That's great. So ChatGPT is it's a generative language model. And what that means is the software of the computer, the software of the program, can actually create original content. So there is a whole world that is developing as a result of generative AI and how we consume and how we create content. So for example, the next 7 or 8 slides you see have all been formulated with the use of ChatGPT. I could have chosen to go scour the internet for hours and hours trying to pull these resources. Or I could use ChatGPT I typed in the question, what is a free activity? And ChatGPT sent a whole bunch of information out to me. I then could go and fact check and look at these websites to see if this was something I wanted to discuss. That's a great question. Is ChatGPT an app? Nope. You can just Google ChatGPT. You'll sign in and create an account. I just heard from a presentation a couple weeks ago, and this was a really good tip I want to share forward. If you do make a ChatGPT account, create a new email for it. There is very little regulations out there saying what ChatGPT can and can't have access to, because that technology is so ahead of just our current regulation system. So if you create just a blank email account that has nothing to it and not even your name or anything associated with it, it's just a little bit of digital security going forward. That's a great thing to just have in general, especially if you're signing up for free trials and just testing new things. Plus, then you don't get all the junk emails sent to your main account.
What is a battle pass?
Yes, okay. So a battle pass is a form of pay to play. So if anybody here is curious about competitive video games, I'm very biased to that, but I won't speak to the general public. You can just spend money to get cosmetics for the game. Just say if you spent money to beat a level in Candy Crush that you were stuck on, or that Sudoku level that you just couldn't figure out, it's just another way for companies to gain revenue. So those are just kind of things that we want to be mindful of as we check out these sites. Yes?
When you say create a new account,
Yep.
does that mean they're going to charge you
Nope. So when I meant create a new account, I was referring to just like creating a new email account. You can create, so I know Google, for example, you can create 6 accounts a month for free. I wouldn't encourage you to create 6 accounts because that's a lot to remember. But if you created an extra Google account or an extra Yahoo account, you can just have that. It's 100% free. I can promise you that Google's free to today's date. 10 years from now, I don't know. But the way that it works is you can create an account and then you can save that information and then you can just use that to sign into information. So if you have Facebook, for example, at one point you had to use an email account to log into Facebook. So you could use that account or use a very similar account to it. Yeah. So this is where I chose to cast a wide net. I don't know the music tastes of the audience, nor do I know your accessibility to the internet. So I guess my one question, just kind of laying a baseline, who has access to the internet here, specifically Wi-Fi? Okay, so that is the majority of the audience. So your music fix, it very much depends on what kind of technology you have and what do you have access to. Amazon Music, for example. Can you raise your hand real quick if you have an Amazon account? Okay. Everybody who just raised their hand has access to Amazon Music. How many actually knew you had Amazon Music? Okay. That's more than I expected. I didn't know about it for like 2 years. So Amazon Music is just a way that you can download songs and just have access to that information. So wherever you're at, if somebody's like, I'm looking for music, one of my first starting places is just, do you have Amazon? Do you have Amazon Prime? Because you likely have access to that information and it's just a free subscription that you're already paying for.
Do you have to have Prime though to access to Amazon Music?
You do have to have Amazon Prime. It's not free, so it's part of that Prime subscription. So whether you have it or you're sharing with a friend, you can log into that account.
Is it a streaming or you download it?
You can do both. So you can download some music, and then like say if you're on a long car drive with bad internet service, you can just play music that way, or you can stream it just directly from a Wi-Fi source, or if you have unlimited data, you can do that as well.
So if you're using your son's Amazon account, and then it says who's watching, and then you click on your own little icon.
Yep.
How do you get to that music part?
So the question is, how do you navigate to Amazon if you are, it sounds like, are you using a TV for that?
Yeah.
Okay, so I would encourage you, one, when you get home or anybody, just do a quick Google search about how to find Amazon Music. It's also very likely on your smartphone. You can just download the Amazon Music app, log in with those same credentials, and then you'd be good to go. Yeah.
I was just going to add that I use Alexa, and so I have Alexa
Yep.
choose my music to play it because I also have a Prime subscription, so I
Yeah.
don't pay anything more than just.
Correct. So you bought that Amazon Alexa for probably $20 to $30, and then you can plug it into your Wi-Fi or at home, and then you can be like, hey, Alexa, play me some music. Yeah, I was waiting for that. So you can just ask your Alexa device, your Siri device, thank you, Apple, or your Google device to just play the music for you. Even if you don't have the app downloaded, it will still pull music for you, and it'll just play advertisements. So, I mean, going forward, Apple Music, YouTube Music, Spotify, they're all very similar platforms. It just comes down to your personal preference and what kind of music you're looking for. Deezer and Tidal are a little bit more like curated playlists and just kind of like up and coming artists and stuff of that nature. Pandora's a free service out there that has advertisements, so is Spotify. But what's really cool about Pandora is you can just type in an artist that you like. So Nickelback, the Beatles, whoever it may be, Pink Floyd, my grandma loves that one. And you can just play music that's like Pink Floyd with an emphasis. So you're going to be getting songs and artists from that entire generation. iHeartRadio is another great one. Who still listens to the radio station? Because I know I do when I go to work. So iHeartRadio is a really cool resource because you can just plug into different radio stations. So for me, I was born and raised in Wisconsin. 95.5 WIFC is like probably my go-to news source, or not my news source, my go-to radio station. and I can just plug in with iHeartRadio, or I could even go to their website and download their radio station and listen to it for free. It's kind of interesting because then you can track anywhere you want. So if you ever want to go revisit memory lane of just one of your fun radio stations, go online, Google it. I'm very positive that there should be that resource out there for you. Quobuz, I believe is the pronunciation, and IDAGIO. These are two resources that I actually found using ChatGPT that have a very specifically curated playlist of classical music. So I don't know if there's anybody that likes to read and listen to classical music, maybe study. I know I did during school. I would have random playlists going. But that's a really cool resource, and it's quite extensive to all you can find, from Bach to Beethoven to everything else that I don't actually know in the musical world. So yeah.
I wanted to give a shout out for an app called Radio Garden,
Okay,
and it's global.
wonderful.
Download the app for free, and then an icon of the globe,
Okay.
and then it's a radio station live anywhere in the world. It's amazing.
Okay, so that's called Radio Garden. It's free. You can track the world. That sounds amazing.
It's the radio station.
Wonderful.
You can go to Antarctica, the one radio station, and hear what they're playing at 2 a.m.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that information. Great environment to do so. So I see a couple people stealing pictures. By all means, I don't have handouts, so if there's a website up here that you're interested in, just take a picture. The PowerPoint will be published after. It'll be up for the general public. So let's hop over to the next one. Staying fit while staying home. So the pandemic changed a lot of things in this world. We can acknowledge that. There's also a bunch of 50% of the world's introverted and doesn't want to go out. So there are different apps out there that you can download that, full disclosure, in the app world, in the world of fitness, you will likely have to pay some sort of fitness or a subscription. It's pretty likely you can get 30-day free trials. If you're feeling ambitious, you can create 6 Google accounts to get a bunch of free trials, but I wouldn't encourage that. You get very lost. And from there, we can just talk about different things. So like the Nike Training Club, it's a great way to count your steps and just check your general activity throughout the week. It'll help you with your sleep tracking. Your FitnessPal will do very similar things, and so will the Fitbod. These are all different apps. Okay, perfect. So these are all different apps out there that are just accessible to the general public. If you are looking to subscribe or use one of these, I would likely start by looking at a smartwatch. So see what smartwatches are on sale, see what smartwatches are compatible. We know the Apple Watch is not going to work with Android stuff. They don't like to talk to each other. Something about competitive business. So just make sure that you're sitting in the market that you want to be a part of. There are also a couple of websites out here these are just 2 that I looked right off the top, bodybuilding.com and Darby. Both of these are free websites to create an account. The bodybuilding's a little bit more fitness aggressive, but Darby actually has a ton of free applications and free educations of just different exercises. They have a daily exercise that you can utilize. There's a bunch of pre-recorded workouts and video content for people. All of this you can do from the safety of your home and the comfort. If you're getting into the world of fitness and exercising, instead of going to buy like your weight set and having to lug that around, you can pick up a set of bands that will have different forms of resistance and strength, right around 20 to 30 bucks on Amazon or just in different platforms. It's a really easy way to be able to get that range of motion and start doing some restorative functions to gain strength and mobility without having to carry a 20-pound weight around. So I've found that to be very useful in my personal life when I do attempt to exercise. But yeah, so outside of that, do we have readers in the group? Okay, I love that. I'm not one of them. Thank you for being that for me. So there's a ton of free ebooks online and a ton of free resources that are just accessible to the public. You can look at what city you're in. Your community page might have that information. You can go to Facebook, you can go to Instagram, you can go to TikTok. The resources are just everywhere. When it comes to like an ebook or a fitness blog, don't pay. You should not have to pay for one. In the event that you get stuck behind a paywall, just go back and go to the next one. you're going to find a free resource that isn't going to cost a fee. So, who streams? Pretty much everybody. Okay. So streaming content is just a really simple way. It's a new way that people consume media. It's been around for about a decade, and I know we go back to the Amazon people. Everybody who has Amazon Prime also has Amazon Prime Video. They separated that? Oh.
I do not.
Okay, gotcha. So, yes?
I was also gonna say for Amazon Prime, you can get access to books too.
The Kindle, I forgot about that. You do, there is, on Amazon Prime, there is a whole bunch of free books out there. You can also pay $15 a month to get 2 books to like own as ebooks. In the event that you do that, you could probably pick up a Kindle pretty easily. Buy that on Black Friday. That's coming up in like a month. It'll be a lot cheaper than paying full price. So there's Hulu. That's very pretty heavy for sports and TV network. There's YouTube TV. That's just got everything out there. One that my great-grandmother, we just set up with her, and she's pretty excited, is Hallmark Now Movies. It's just the Hallmark channel, but on an app. So you can just 24/7 Hallmark movies. Acorn TV is a British site. I don't know if there's anybody that enjoys dry British humor, but that's a free resource out there. Tubi is another one that is, I believe, rooted in English Foundation. And then there's Twitch. So if anybody likes video games, that's where there's a live platform for a ton of people that just play video games, talk about video games, and just stuff of that nature. Crackle is another free website out there. That one, you get advertisements, but it's free to stream. There's a decent amount of advertisements on there, and there's various shows on there. Another one that I found that was kind of cool is PBS Video. So if you like documentaries, this is a free account that you can create as well. You'll get your ads on there, but it's just everything that PBS would play. So if you want like truly informational and educational content, that's a great foundation for you to go to. Fun and leisure. So it's the internet. You can do pretty much whatever you want to do on the internet within reason, but we want to look at just some very easy access things. Everything that is on the games column, you could probably go to your smartphone, your tablet, whatever it is, and type that information in. And like card games, you would find thousands of card games, from euchre to canasta to Texas Hold'em to Go Fish. Like, you're gonna find that probably on the first page of your educational content, or the first page of the search. There's just a whole bunch of things out there. Puzzles are really fun. Personally, I like puzzles in person just because, you know, they're tangible. You can order them online for like a couple bucks. Other things that I kind of found that were really cool is, anybody like enjoy your museums, enjoy traveling? So you can dig through the internet and go to different museums and see art galleries, different exhibits. To take that one step further, should you invest in a VR headset at some point, you can do the same thing, but from a 360-degree perspective. So instead of just looking at the Mona Lisa on an image search or from the website, you can be in the room where the Mona Lisa actually is housed, and then you can see that in, like, not real time, but just a standstill image that was taken. Yeah, so you can go to a museum website and find a lot of that information. If you type in something like online museum tours, you'd probably find different information. So if you go to the museum website, you might just get caught at like, here's our hours, here's our exhibit, here's our gallery. But if you look at for an online tour, you can find that information in a whole different facet. The same goes with traveling, different hobbies. We're gonna talk more about hobbies in just a moment. Research, if there's any book nerds out there, research people, there's a whole bunch of information out on the internet. You can look for scholarly articles. Has anybody heard of Google Scholar? Okay, so Google Scholar is something that you use all the time in school, and instead of just going to Google, you type in Google Scholar, it'll pull up a whole different website for you, and then you can start looking at legitimate research articles if that's something that you're interested in. Many colleges also host like free lectures, so if you want to, I believe MIT, for example, has like their entire online education program free to the public. So like if you, Coursera is another one. They have free stuff, but they also have some subscription, I believe. But yeah, there's a whole bunch of different opportunities out there. So looking at creativity and just looking at different things. Who's a DIYer? I talked to a contractor the other day. They said, destroy it yourself. And it's kind of true in its own regard. So some of the best resources for DIY is YouTube, Pinterest, and TikTok. Those are just very simple ways where you can search your media content and be able to dive in and just look at the different forms of information that are out there. Another cool one that I found was Instructables. This is a little bit more focused, but you can create a free account on there and just look at your different arts and crafts, and from sewing and knitting to rebuilding or refinishing a bookcase. It's all there, and it gives you step-by-step information. It's a great way to draw inspiration if you're looking to pick up a new hobby. Is there anybody that enjoys knitting and sewing in here? Okay, there's a few. So Ravelry, thank you. I was in that website this morning. It's actually a really interesting platform that has social groups. And that's something that we haven't really talked about in the digital space yet, but there are different work groups that are held virtually that you can hop into and then work on your crocheting, work on knitting in a community setting, and you are all making the same project just remotely at different locations. Thought that was pretty interesting compared to a lot of situations I went into. The Mackenzie is just an online magazine that has do-it-yourself projects and platforms. Also pretty cool. And then this is where I could probably spend my entire day because I'm a foodie. Looking at culinary skills. Who has had the same meal for the last 10 years? That one meal that you're like, I'm gonna eat it because I know I won't make it, but what's really cool about the internet and the digital era is that you can take those same meals and then Google what pairs well with that chicken and rice casserole. Insert the Midwestern dish and be like, how to spice it up. You can do more to it. There's also apps out there that are like, I think it's called like What's in My Cupboard. You type in what's in your cupboard and it'll actually spit out, like, you can make this meal. It'll take about this much time. So instead of that hodgepodge meal that you just put together, you can have a little bit more structure to it. There are virtual workshops out there that are both free and paid for. You can learn how to do cooking with friends or like an online cooking class. If you're looking for something like a virtual workshop of how to cook, I would encourage you to check out YouTube. That's a really good platform for people that want to learn how to cook meals. TikTok's very similar in that. It's just much shorter, and then they skip all the actual prep work you have to do for it and just show you the fancy food. There are, for those individuals out there who are willing to spend a bit of money, there are also subscription meal kits. This is kind of something that's come out in the last 5 to 6 years. HelloFresh is a very popular one. You pay X amount of dollars a month, and they will ship you all the ingredients. It is more expensive than going to the grocery store, but the value behind it is that it forces you to step out of kind of your traditional comfort zone, and it'll give you sheets of how to cook the food. My wife and I did it for a little bit when I was going through grad school just because life was stressed. And what we learned from it wasn't that we learned that we can take a basic platform and elevate it. We learned that pickled onions exist and they take like 20 minutes to make in your house. We learned how to season our food. We learned how to just kind of change what we're currently doing. And it just gives you cool cooking techniques. Yes?
Which one are you talking about right now?
So I'm kind of talking about the subscription meal kits. So it's not on there, but so I would say HelloFresh. That's the one I can think of off the top of my head. There are a whole bunch out there, but they're really interesting platforms. Also, just a little FYI for anybody who's using HelloFresh or like a meal subscription platform, don't pay full price for it. If you sign up for a free month and then cancel it, within 24 hours after that day is over, they're gonna be like, next 15 meals on us for free. You can say yes to that. Or if you wait a week, they're gonna be like, next 20 meals on Plus for free. can say that, or wait a week. So I mean, just do it at your discretion. But it's a good way to, like, if you have a lull, or if there's like a month where you just kind of want to take a break and like change up your food, you can order it for a month and then cancel it at any time. That is something to be said with subscriptions in general. Don't do anything that will lock you into a contract for like a year unless it's like truly a value deal and you're like, okay, I'm willing to pay this. Most subscriptions at this point can be canceled like immediately after free trials, after any of that information. So at any point. So I would not lock yourself into a contract whenever possible. So we're starting to wrap up here, but just looking at kind of like a large question that's going to turn into a conversation is, how do you actually choose the right technology? That can kind of be intimidating at points. So I would start by saying something like this. Do you have an Android device? Raise your hand. Okay. Do you have an Apple device? Raise your hand. I'd say 60-40 leaning Apple. If you have an Apple device, go with Apple products. It's not necessary for you to change what platform it is and just like completely re-educate yourself and revamp it. When it comes to Android, I'm an Android user. I can go through the guts of the phone and figure out whatever I need to. iPhone, I have to call my grandpa being like, hey, how do I get to the settings? Like, it just happens. Like, you're gonna be comfortable with what you are, so it's not necessary for you to change your platforms. So that would go from the same from your tablet, your smartwatch, what your Alexa versus your Google Home versus Siri. Just use what you're comfortable with. All these platforms, all the apps that we shared and talked about today, specifically the streaming, can be accessible through a smart TV. If you have a smart TV, that's great. You can go to the store and download the app. If you don't have a smart TV, it's not necessary to buy one. You can buy a Chromecast, which is Google, a Fire Stick, which is Amazon, or a Roku, which is its own platform, and plug it into the back of your TV for $30 and turn it into a smart TV. It's not necessary to go out and spend a couple $100s on a new TV when a much cheaper solution is readily available. So yeah, what questions do we have? We have like 3-4 minutes left. My next slide literally just says what questions. Thoughts, comments? Yes?
How important is it to have a computer, a personal computer, when there's so many other options out there? How do you...
To have a personal computer, yes. So I think that would come down to, what are you looking for? Most things in this day and age, you can get by with a tablet on. So this computer might be $400. You can probably buy a tablet for $100 to $200, especially Black Friday shopping. I know I keep mentioning that. Anybody here who's gonna buy technology after this, wait a month. Like, it's a holiday season coming up. You don't need to pay full price for it. But I wouldn't say it's necessary to have a computer at this point versus just a tablet. It depends on what you want to use it for. If you are trying to code on the create a custom program, you're going to want a computer. If you're looking at pictures on social media, a tablet will be just fine. Yeah. And you had a question?
Well, I lived in Green Bay for 30 years, and you said you're from Wisconsin?
Yes.
Where?
Random question. Tomahawk, Wisconsin, so central Wisconsin. Tomahawk. Yeah, it's in the middle of nowhere. We're surrounded by trees. Any other closing questions? Otherwise, I'm going to cut the mic. I think we're at time. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm just going to remind people that we have individual tech help sessions right across the hall here, and if you have more questions afterwards, we have our staff here available to help you out.
That is a great resource. I would definitely tell people to go there. If you have questions of what you want to buy or even look at, I think, thank you. That's a great opportunity.